In this video, we're going to look a little bit more in depth at the one-to-one relationship and how it works in Ruby on Rails. We covered this a little bit in an earlier video, but I'll quickly cover it again. A one-to-one relationship has two tables where one entry in the invoice table corresponds to one entry in the order table, and they're joined by the ID of the order. So you have a foreign key called order_ID in the invoices table relating to the ID of an order. So there's a one-to-one relationship. Now let's jump over to our databases and look at it that way. So here we have the orders table, and in here, go look at the design, we have the ID, and we have, just for our example here, a company name, just so we can see some information about it. And then our invoices table, we have the primary key of ID. Here's our foreign key ID, and notice it's just set up as an integer, and we're not doing any foreign key work within the database itself. We're letting Rails handle that. And finally, just to see some additional information when we play around with this, I put a created at timestamp in here. And remember from earlier videos, if we create a field with created_at, when a entry is made into this table by Rails, it will automatically enter the created at timestamp for you. So you get that for nothing by just creating it there. So let's go look at our models real quick. Here are two models of those tables which I generated earlier, and in earlier videos you see how to do that. And they're actually straightforward. You could create them yourself if you wish. To refresh you, here is our Rails application that I generated, and this is just a demonstration. When we go through the one-to-many in the next video, I'll go a little bit more in depth on how to actually do this portion again. So we have our Rails structure here and my two models within my models folder. And right now my model declarations are pretty simple. I'm just naming my class and subclassing it off of the active record base for both of them, and I haven't established a relationship. In order to establish the relationship, I have to use one of two method calls. One method call is called has_one, and then you give the table name that relationship is to, and the other part of that relationship is it belongs_to. So actually, let me put this in code here. So since our order table is the table that doesn't have the foreign key, we're going to say has_one, and then we'll put the invoice. That's the table name. So what we have here is the method call has_one, and then a symbol, which is similar to a string, but it's a little bit easier for Ruby to handle it and deal with it. And it's just the table name that this has one of. And it's pretty straightforward, almost English, where we has_one invoice. Now on the invoice side, we have to say belongs to, and then we say order. And again, this is a method call of belongs_to, and then a symbol, the table name. And you could, if you used to Java type of syntax or other, you could do something like this, but the Rails convention is to use it this way. This belongs to has to go into the class declaration of the table that has the foreign key. So if we jump back to our database viewer here and I look at the invoices, just to remind you here that the foreign key of order_ID was inside of the invoices table. So that's where you have to put it. As far as which model the belongs to goes, it goes into the model that has the foreign key. So now that we have that, and I've saved both of those, so I'm going to go ahead and use the console here to play around with this a little bit. This will get started. The first thing we'll do is go ahead and create an order, and we'll just make it something simple. And I will use the convention of instantiating the object and then assigning a company name, so you can see what I'm doing step by step, and it makes a little more sense. And remember, we have to save it. Let's jump over to our database, double check that, yeah, there it's in there. Now let's go ahead and create an invoice for this. Now, when you're doing this in Ruby on Rails and in the actual coding, it's not going to be as detailed as this. It's a little bit easier, and we'll cover that when we get into controllers more of how to actually do this. So there's a new invoice. Now at this point, what I need to do is I need to tell that the order what invoice it's connected to. And I do this by using the dot syntax of dot invoice. And remember, this is a method call, and I hope I didn't confuse you by calling this an invoice. And this is just a local variable used inside the count. So where this, the dot, and the invoice is the method call, just as dot company is the method to get to this company attribute of order. And I'm going to save, or I'm going to say invoice, and now it saved it out. And then let's go ahead and save our order. Now let's jump over to our database again. Let's look. There should be an invoice in here. Sure enough, it's ID 2. On our order, it's ID 2, and we have a created ad in here. So what can we do with this? If I go and I say invoice, and remember this is referring to the local variable here, not the method call in the order, and I say order, and I say company, it should return Big Corp, because it connects through. If we jump here, it connects through from, I'm going from invoice to order and getting the company field. So I got an invoice, I'm going through the order ID and to the name. That's how a one-to-one relationship works inside of Ruby on Rails.